Today is going to be all about level 1 of your entrepreneur journey. So, if you've missed the last episode that I did, I basically talked about how there are 5 phases of entrepreneurship. So, now after working on my own business for 30 years and working with and coaching other creative entrepreneurs, I started to break down what really happens in the progression of the entrepreneurial journey to see success in their business. What do you do? And for sure, it's not as easy as following a framework or a pattern. And one of the reasons why I believe successful results come for some entrepreneurs is that they don't focus on here's how to do it or follow these exact steps and you will be successful, meaning that there's only one way to go on this journey. What I've realized is that it goes deeper and there are many solutions. And it's a matter of finding the one that is most optimal for you. And we need to realize that things can get derailed from working only from what we know. I mean, the trial and error is our guide. When it's our guide, the road gets pretty bumpy. So that is what we do in coaching. I get to work on where you are in your journey. We get to go then beneath the surface because that's where a lot of the mistakes can happen. And entrepreneurs also need to remember who they are, and they need that mastery of their craft, yes, but also in their business in order to succeed. Because that's what's going to make you different from just having it as a hobby. And when all of these elements, and these are the invisible elements, right? The mastery of your craft and the level of mastery in business, when they're combined with a framework, patterns, or methods, that's when people see hyper growth in their business. So this is why, honestly, this is why I put together these 5 phases of entrepreneurship. These are the levels that people will go through as they're building their business. And yes, you can hear my dogs barking. But if you're on that building journey right now, then you're going to be, I guarantee you, at one of these first 3 or even perhaps 4 levels, okay? Because level 5 is when you have mastery over your craft and your business. You're the number 1 person in your specialty. You're creating what people haven't ever seen or heard of before. And today, this, talk that I'm doing is going to be about phase number 1. So again, just to recap, there are 5 phases. Number 1 is the budding entrepreneur. Number 2 is the emerging entrepreneur. Number 3 is the status quo entrepreneur. And the 4th is the empowered entrepreneur. And then the final phase is the unleashed entrepreneur. You've gained mastery in your craft and in your business. Okay, so we're going to talk about the budding entrepreneur. And I'm willing to bet that most of you are at the budding or emerging entrepreneur phase. The budding entrepreneur phase is generally making inconsistent revenue, perhaps 0 to 5K a month. Primarily, you're unseen and unknown in your specialty and in your location where you're located, right? Perhaps you're even still wondering what direction you're going to do within your specialty, because there's like your overarching specialty, and then there's distinct parts that you can do within your own specialty, right? Because basically you're not getting eyes on you because you haven't really established a brand and you're just figuring it out. And it has to be so frustrating because you know what you want to do and that this is your desire and it's so great, and you know that you can actually help people and make some income. You're giving out your best creative designs for next to nothing, and sometimes even free, just so people can get to know who you are, hoping that they will like what you do and reciprocate. My mentor referred to something the other day, is that it's like when they give out free samples at Costco and you eat them with no intention of buying what you just tasted, right? So people don't always reciprocate. They will realize that you are the giving tree and just come back for more free or cheap business. Your marketing efforts aren't in place, and most likely you're just posting randomly on social media, hoping that they will come. And still no one sees it, because except for some friends and family. Remember, we need 3 things to build our business, right? We need eyes on us, then we need to keep the eyes on us, and then we need to create the demand while they're watching us. So when you're the budding entrepreneur, you post content that you know can help people or what they will like, right? But no one's paying attention. Even though what you are showing is probably amazing, and who wouldn't love what you have to offer, right? But remember, it's not about whether or not your product or service is good. That's not what it's about. This is about creating your messaging and your content in a way that the audience is subconsciously saying, this is so good. I want to know more about you and what you do. And just by posting, you're not doing that. You know what you do and offer is good. The audience doesn't know that it's good, different, or unique yet. And you have never taken an approach to your content in mindset or in the lens of how do I get my audience to know that? How do you get them to know that you are unique and different? You probably haven't even asked yourself, how do I communicate and meet my audience where they're at and communicate so they know it's different? Now, if you're able to get someone to like or watch what you're doing and you're at the budding entrepreneur phase, it means that even when they're watching, they're definitely not saying anything. They're not commenting, right? Which means that they're not taking that next step with you. And if you're a budding entrepreneur, you would have likely gone 3 months or more without even a significant increase in the growth of followers that you have. Or in the last 3 months or more, there's most likely been no significant growth in sales either. Again, this is probably one of the most frustrating phases to be at, because you know you're really showing up and your desire is at a high level and you're ready to serve and often give away your best services, and nothing is happening. And you're just taking the orders as they come and not thinking about how to put yourself out there, to market yourself, to get that future revenue. Now, here's the reason why this happened. Because the budding entrepreneurs are doing what they've seen or been told to do when it comes to marketing. Essentially posting on social media, since maybe that's the only marketing you know right now. And for the past 3 to 5 years, that's been taught without taking into account the adaptation to the increase of competitors and experts and market saturation. So here's what I mean by this. If your content is focused on standard practices that already exist and the expertise that already exists and has existed for the last 3 to 5 years, and you haven't adapted to anything new or different, then you're showing the same things that have been around for 3 to 5 years or are being used by the same people that are just like you. And that's fine. It's great, it's dandy, especially 10 years ago even, when there weren't as many competitors in this space. But you haven't adapted to the influx of competitors and experts because the market is saturated now and you're continuing to use the same standard practices that have been around for 3 to 5 years. It's just going to cause you to blend in even more. And usually your focus is about posting images of what you're doing, maybe showing a few how-tos to show your authority and expertise in what you do. And a secondary cause could be creating your products and services based on whether others tell you what they want. You're creating based off of survey results about your audience, if you have an audience. But likes, but you're just kind of guessing at what you do, right? You're actually creating what you think is going to avoid haters too. But you're just so worried that what people are going to think about you in a negative way that it will literally impact what you're creating. Or are you doing what you think your niche will want? So you're like, okay, this is what my audience wants. This is what they're asking for. A lot of times people never know what they want or what they're asking for. Everyone is just guessing. No one really knows. And we don't want to focus on survey or poll results because then your audience controls your message. And here's the kicker. If you have the wrong audience in the first place, then they're most often, liking what they like and want, which means you're going to continue attracting the wrong audience. We don't see brands or companies like Sephora, JLo, Nike, or Google, right, serving you to figure out what you want. They're creating a message that draws people and that magnetizes the exact person they want. They're creating their message and they're putting it out there because all that stuff leads to surface level marketing, which leads to surface level communication. And what will happen is when you're very surface level, it means you're saying the same thing as everyone else is. For example, what if I was to say, you've just got to get the know, like, and trust factor, right? Or I'll say, be you and be authentic. Yeah, 20 other experts and coaches and consultants have said, be authentic. Everyone's saying the same thing and doing the same thing in my specialty, which means the audience out there perceived me as the same. So when you're the budding entrepreneur and you're doing the same thing and you're doing all those things that I mentioned, what happens is that the audience perceives you as the same as everyone else. Even though you know you're different, you haven't done a good enough job letting them know why you're different so that they can perceive you as different, right? That's the name of the game. And again, we want the eyes on us. And if you haven't been able to do that at this level, right? You're very generalized in your design or images. You're very generalized in your content. You're very generalized in your communication. And you're really just seen as another creative sharing your products and services. You get to focus on being different, being polarizing, shifting your space, and suffering, right? And I'm not trying to be dramatic about it. I'm really just trying to get you to see that in order to enter into the next phase and grow your business, you're going to have to be smart and share what makes you different. And hopefully, if you see that I know a lot about this, you'll want to work with me because I know at this level, there are a lot of beliefs and emotions that you may be feeling. You may be stuck in the idea of everything needs to be perfect before I put it out there. Or perhaps even procrastinating, right? Because you don't know what to do. Both of those will keep you from evolving because you can test and tweak and get to what works for you when you work on this, right? The thing that you probably haven't realized yet is that every single post doesn't need to be amazing. I think a lot of us get stuck in this idea of, I have to post this perfect photo, this one event or image that I will show will change everything. People are going to love it as much as I do. What happens is then we get stuck in creating more and more content and it's not resonating with people. So you've got to sit down and work on a process of what you want. Now, it's going to take more than one post. Yes, and it's going to take the right type of communication along with it. It's what's experienced when they come to you over time, meaning time and time again. Okay, so let me ask you. Look at a person that you followed for the last, let's say 2 months or longer. Tell me their content. Give me a specific piece of their content. What was that photo or video? How did they title it? What did they talk about? I'm willing to bet you can probably only come up with 1, 2, or 3 pieces of their content, right? And what they probably posted, they've probably posted every day or close to it, which means over the last few months, they've posted at least 60 pieces of content. But you only remember 1, 2, or 3. Why? Because when a piece of content is good and it hits, that's what you remember. You don't remember every single piece of content, which means your audience isn't going to remember every single one of your pieces of content that you're posting, which means you're allowed to put out not so perfect content. You're allowed to put out content that doesn't do that great because it's going to allow you to learn. And it's going to allow you to go, this didn't hit the way I wanted it to, right? How do I justify or know what's going to hit or what's not going to hit? Maybe that piece of content that didn't really hit very well with your audience actually hit person A, B, or C over here, and they remembered it. The idea that I'm talking about here is perfectionism is literally going to kill your message. And perfectionism is one of the emotions and beliefs a lot of budding entrepreneurs get into. They think the photo needs to be perfect. The editing needs to be perfect. The background needs to be perfect. The caption needs to be perfect. The more experience or knowing that you have, the better you get. So here's the thing. You could sit on the perfect piece of content for 3 weeks, put it out there, and realize, you know what? I actually didn't like that at all. On paper, it sounded great, but when I said it out loud, I didn't like it. And now you just wasted 3 weeks. You're also stuck in a fear of haters or what other people think. And you're not sure if you're doing it right. You keep getting stuck in this idea of, am I doing it right? Because you think you can actually mess it up. There's no messing up when you're growing as an entrepreneur. Your business has to be put out there and has to evolve. It has to be learned. It has to be felt. It has to be done, and it has to be executed again and again. That is the budding entrepreneur. Now, in order to fix it, there's a couple of things that I would recommend that can move you to the next phase, right? So number 1 is change how you're communicating to your audience. Think about the problems and the mistakes your client is making. What is important to them, and how does it relate to your why for doing what you love? And how can you make it unique? Change up what everyone else is doing and add phrases and words that are just a little different than what everyone else is saying. Learn to incorporate your brand story and identity to incorporate beliefs. For example, the one I always use is about being a creative person, which I am, and an entrepreneur, which I am. So I could put out messaging that says, do creatives make the best entrepreneurs? Like, that's going to grab the attention and eyes of other creative entrepreneurs, right? It's curiosity driven. And then I can talk about whatever I want to talk about. I can keep going. I can go into a tutorial if I wanted to. But the idea is just to simply start changing your communication, not be so focused on basic content that just shows the latest design we've created, because we need to evolve. The first step to breaking out of the budding entrepreneur, and I know I've been talking mostly about marketing here, as this is one of the most obvious ways that we can grow in this phase other than learning our craft, right? The other parts of our business, the sales, the operations, the admin, that will come. Concentrate on building your audience and your brand so you can have a voice that's different in the specialty you've chosen. So give it a try. That's what level 1 is all about. You're going to be doing things on your own, so you need to test and tweak it as you like it. That's what you need to start doing to change. You need to get out of your fear. You need to understand that perfectionism is just a thing that's going to stop you. There's no right or wrong here. And the fear haters is actually necessary. Haters are necessary. They're a clear sign that what you're doing is working, because your marketing and your communication shouldn't just attract the right people. It should repel the wrong people as well. So when you have those haters, that's actually a great sign that it's working. So you need to get out of that mindset. Now, next week, I'll be talking about phase 2. What is phase number 2 and how to break out of it? All about the emerging entrepreneur. So if you found yourself at level number 1, you've got some work to do. And stay tuned for the next episode where we're going to talk all about how to move into the level number 2 and how you got to level number 2, which is the emerging entrepreneur again. So I'll see you there. Thanks for joining me.